Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 3 of the SuckLessStation podcast. Today, we bring in fellow 80 kilo competitor and fellow veteran, Justin Bulware. I think you and I met like maybe a couple years ago, just kind of through Instagram. So we met face to face at Nationals. Again, we're just kind of be going over a bunch of things. If you got questions, answer them in the chat. And without later ado, go for it.
Yeah, man. And you're spot on. I think we connected on Instagram like so many of us do. And then I felt like I know you for years before we actually meet face to face. It's so funny how that always happens. But yeah, man. Veteran, gym owner, 80 kilo strongman competitor. Kind of been around the strength sport world since 2018. Got out of the Marine Corps in 2017. And then, just kind of fell into it after that. The brief synopsis on kind of my background and my dive into all that. I initially, after getting out of the Marine Corps, wanted to be a teacher and a football coach, and then needed something to do to like work my way through college. Was going on the GI Bill, but like had a family at the time, and bills got to be paid. So started working at a gym. Ended up getting hired on to run like the youth centers at this
that's
gym.
Awesome.
I worked with kids there, and just kind of conned may not be the right word, but kind of conned my way into like getting a few personal training clients without any certification there early on.
Yeah.
And fell in love with it, man. Fell in love with that, and then through the process of like lifting and like gym lifts, bro lifts, stuff like that, hurt myself a couple of times, very minorly, but enough to know that there's probably a better way to do this.
Yes.
Yes. Dove so hard into like, well, who knows how to lift heavier weights? Man, I found like the powerlifting community and like West Side Barbell and consumed.
You've been to West Side Barbell?
I have not. No, I have not.
I was say that's crazy.
One day I will though. I hope so. I hope I will. I hate that I did not get the opportunity to before Louis' passing. That'd have been awesome. But no, man, kind of found them online and, consumed every single piece of media on their website. I'm talking read like every article, some of it incoherent, if you know anything about Louis Simmons.
Absolutely.
And then absolutely fell in love with just like the world of strength. Started doing some powerlifting in 2018 and started kind of dabbling in Olympic weightlifting. And believe it or not, I know this isn't the way you're supposed to do it, but got my first Olympic weightlifting client to coach before I ever competed in Olympic weightlifting. And I was up front with the guy too. I was like, hey man, my background on anything weightlifting is like we did cleans in high school. And like I've started like learning about it just to kind of incorporate into part of my training to get better at powerlifting. And the guy was like, I've got nobody else. Will you teach me?
That's
so
awesome.
we started. Yeah. And I guess I still have that guy as a client of mine. He's my business partner now. So
hell yeah.
Spawned a heck of a relationship there.
It's funny that you say that because like the way I got into Olympic lifting, sort of the same way that like you went into like powerlifting and strength training with like Louis Simmons and stuff like that. I started competing in CrossFit in like 2017, but really I wasn't even really competing. If anything, it was like competing against myself and like your typical Army Fun Day stuff. I did like 2 competitions, I think, but same thing. No Olympic lifting background outside of like what we did in high school, and I was like, everything hurts with me trying to do this. So I actually, I pulled up every webinar. I read every article I could. Like, I watched a lot of webinar and videos of Dmitry Klokov, who is just a psychotic Russian man. And I took everything that he taught and I just went from there without ever having a cert. And then was, again, like you, just like, but with me, it was like my friends. I was just like teaching them. I was like, hey, you're messing this up. And that has kind of just fueled my entire life. I am the best or the worst unsolicited advice giver because I'll just look at something and be like, hey. But that's sweet. So like so you said you were working at a gym, right? And then I think it's an aspiration amongst like most people inside the strength community And you made a post about this a little bit ago about like what people don't realize when it comes to opening a gym. So like most people have aspirations to open a gym. When did you really be like, I'm making this happen? And like, what did you have to do to make it happen? Because you know the general rule of thumb most people say is be prepared to be red for like 5 years.
Yeah, that's our path was probably a little atypical with that, and it's always funny thinking back to it. So the guy that I kind of took on to coach at the time in Olympic weightlifting, um, we were working together for probably like 6 months at the time, to be honest. And he was a school teacher. He played professional baseball. He was a fireman. He was a chef. Then he was a teacher at this time. So he had done a little bit of everything.
That's crazy.
And then one day, like in the summer, in the middle of your workout, he was like, "Hey man, if you ever wanted to open a gym, I would do that with you." And at this point, I had no aspirations of anything like that. And I was like, maybe, like that would be cool to have our own place. And then the next day, I'm scrolling through Facebook Marketplace, and there's this guy in Mobile, Alabama. Was probably, I mean, that's a couple of hours away from where we live in Mississippi, and he had like his half of a gym that was shutting down. That he took ownership of half the equipment, and he was like, "Hey, I'm selling it $3,000." So the next day, when I went back to work out with Rob, my business partner there, I was like, "Hey man, here's this equipment. If you were serious about that thing that you said yesterday, if you have half the cash, we'll go pick it up." And that was it. He had half the cash. I had half the cash. We went and picked it up.
That's
man, we still have all those, those old like custom made red power racks, the big giant obnoxious things that are in the back of our gym now. We have every single piece of equipment that we went and picked up from Mobile. This was in 2019, and I didn't even really tell our wives about it. Just showed up with this trailer load full of stuff, and it was like, okay, half is going to go in your garage until we have a place, and half will go in my garage. And at that point, our wives didn't enjoy that, but that's neither here nor there at this point. But at that point, that was the only plan that we had. We knew that we loved this like weightlifting and powerlifting thing. We want to get involved and hopefully doing this for the rest of our lives in some capacity. My business, personal training and training kids and stuff like that had picked up to where I was making decent enough money. So I was thinking like, if I had my own place, I could stop giving this other gym, 55% of everything I make, because that's kind of the going rate at that place.
Yeah. They absolutely just like take your money. They're worse than strip clubs.
Oh, for sure. Oh,
that overhead is crazy.
But yeah, man, picked up that equipment, and then from then on out, any kind of extra money we had, we would buy stuff that was on sale from Vulcan, from Rogue, from Rogue's never on sale, but like the Boneyard barbells and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Gradually accumulated equipment, and then the most convenient thing ever in the world for us, not for other people, but COVID happened in 2020. And gyms shut down. Rob was still teaching. He got sent home, still being paid, which was nice.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Actually, yeah, for sure. But we actually opened up like a very tiny version of what our gym is now in my garage. So,
okay.
We're less, I guess, scared or timid of the whole COVID thing. We obviously had like rules, like, hey, if you are sick, don't come. Clean your stuff before you come. Clean your stuff when you leave. Stuff like that. We started, having people at my house to lift weights. But we opened Hub City Barbell Club in my garage in March of 2020 after having accumulated equipment for the last like 9 months. So the whole like, we're going to open a gym. I understand that we're going to go in the red and have to battle our way back from that. We never really went in the red.
That's nice.
For sure. Now we've never gone much higher than the floor there. That's 5 years later, we have a business. We're still in the same location that we kind of lucked out and found. It was basically a glorified storage closet that this construction company had been just throwing extra stuff that they couldn't use but didn't want to throw away, thinking they may need later. It was on kind of the backside of an old warehouse, and found that and kind of offered them to pay whatever their last tenant paid. And by God, they took the deal.
That's awesome.
And we have, we've paid $900 a month for our gym.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And that's, that plus electricity has been our only overhead for
That
5 years.
that's sick.
So that's kind of how we have gone from, typically you're opening a gym, right? It's like you
Mm,
have nothing, you start with nothing, you take out a loan, you buy equipment, stuff
mm,
like that. You take out enough of a loan to front like the first couple of months
mm-hmm.
of your overhead, and you hope that memberships come in and you're able to cover that. Well, we were fortunate enough that, as soon as we opened, we got kind of this influx of people.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is a good thing because we did not have another plan. Um, and
I mean, you guys probably set up that little foundation for success for yourselves by like you already had your clients, and then you started running people out of your house and stuff like that. So like just like that word of mouth, man, is phenomenal.
that's exactly right. Kind of setting up that kind of the foundation of, you know, us owning everything that we were going to use
Mm-hmm.
rather than, getting a loan or renting or leasing or anything like that. So we lease the building, but everything else that we touch, has our name on it. And
What's
that's,
really
that's
I'll
convenient
keep
for us.
excuse me. I was gonna say what's really sweet though, like what's really sweet to hear is you tend to hear people most of the time, right? And especially like nowadays and stuff like that. They're like, I want more, I want more, I want more. Like it's just a constant stress of I need more. But like for like everything I've seen like that you post, everything that you've just said, like even operating at baseline, right? Like a lot of people, and I know you see the positives. So for those of you who don't see the positives, um, what's it called? It's like if you can look at it and you're doing what you love, and like all your bills are paid, and realistically like everything's taken care of, and you have, and this is really in general anything, and you have what you want. Can you really ask for much more than that?
Yeah, brother, that's exactly right. And that I have that conversation with people all the time. I'm pretty open at the fact that we've been open for 5.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I have taken a total of $300 out of the business. So I've made off the gym $300, but it's provided me a place to train, all my personal training clients. We have a strongman team, and we have an Olympic weightlifting team that we
That's
coach out
sweet.
of there now, and that all goes to pay the bills for the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a place to train my personal training clients. Where if I look to just the percentage that the other gym was taking from me,
Mm-hmm.
like it makes sense. It
Yeah.
adds up. It kind of covers the what would be the difference there. So I may not be making money per se as like a paycheck from the business itself, but 5 years deep, if you're in this area, like you've heard of Hub City Barbell Club,
Mm-hmm.
someone that wants to get involved in Olympic weightlifting or strongman, and you're in Hattiesburg, you know the name Hub City Barbell Club.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a thing that whenever we are presented with the opportunity to move into a larger space, we're going to have people to fill that space pretty quick. Just like when we moved into our first location, I had a client base already. We
Mm-hmm.
had connections, within the community. We had people to fill that space already. Now we are kind of bursting at the seams right now, but as soon as something presents itself, we're going to be able to take that next step forward. So, I'm patient long enough to not take a
Yeah.
paycheck per se from the gym for 5 years, just kind of with the understanding that that thing could spark up, and it could be, hopefully later on down the road, something that pays me back in more than, pride
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and a place to train.
You hear that? $300 in 5 years, and you guys complain about your weekly paychecks. The IRS probably hates you. No, I'm just kidding. What's it called though? So like with that, right? I actually have to stop saying that. One of my soldiers says "with that" all the time, and it drives me up a wall. So, going off, you said you got into personal training and whatnot. What did you have? Because obviously, everyone, at least nowadays, you see all the time. Everyone's either a coach, everyone's either a personal trainer, or some type of keyboard warrior know-it-all. What did you have that people flock to, besides your obvious good looks? That sets you apart really in the completely oversaturated market that it is.
Yeah, man. I think honestly the biggest thing was, and I started out working almost entirely with kids.
Oh,
My first client was the guy that's currently my business partner.
mm-hmm.
Is I was just so damn good with kids, and brother, I never thought that was going to be the case. I
Me
got out
either.
of high school and then out of high school and then joined the Marine Corps and then left the Marine Corps, and like the first people I ever trained were children. Um,
That's
and
great.
it Eventually what happened was I was working with all these kids at the gym, and the owner, saw that I was doing a good job, and then him and I got really tight too. No animosity towards him. He was great. Gave me absolutely my first steps in the industry here. I owe him a lot for sure. But saw that I was doing a good job and I take care of my clients, and he, basically gave me a client that had been with the gym for at this point like 12 years.
Holy poop! That's commitment.
And, this guy is, depending on where you read, the richest man in the state of Mississippi.
Oh my word! What a client!
This this guy has a B in front of his net worth, and I didn't know that at the time. But I was training the guy, and things kind of came up in conversation. Ended up looking him up, and he was absolutely the nicest, most humble man ever. So I did a good job with kids. Did a good job with this guy, with Warren, and then kind of word of mouth spread from there. This guy was very connected. I'll kind of tell people, I'm working out with Justin now, and this is what we're doing now, and kind of picked up clients that way. And then Rob, my business partner, kind of approaching me out of the blue, asking about weightlifting one day, is probably naturally the most talented physical specimen of an athlete I have ever been around.
Just blessed with genetics.
I'm telling you, he looks like a Neanderthal in the most positive way possible.
That's
super
amazing.
strong, super fast, but did a good job with him. And he got stronger, and it kind of fed into us, kind of establishing ourselves as a name in the community for strength. So a combination of two things: one being luck, disguised, or it's persistence disguised as luck. And then two, just, trying to make the most out of every opportunity I had. Mm-hmm. So doing right by every client, never being late, always being prepared, always having a plan, having a good presentation. The kids that I was training at the time, whatever the plan was for the day of the program, I would have a printout for them. And that cost me nothing because I was using the gym's paper and ink to do that. But they would bring it home and they would give it to their parents. And their parents would show that and say, hey, this is what McKinley or Anushka was doing at the gym today, and they would go on their soccer team, and it kind of spread that way.
Dude,
do a good job.
Oh, I was gonna say, and kids, and obviously working with kids, I ran a little thing a little while ago, starting strength youth program, but golly, they surprise the crap out of you, don't they? Like with just like how strong they are, and they're just out there having fun. Like I know some of us, we look at like strength training and we're like, we just need to like be in this, or like I need to hit this weight, and they're just like, I'll give it a whirl, and then they're like, they go and hit like over their body weight on like say a deadlift or something like that, and you're just like, how are you doing this?
Context.
Like
and no context. That's supposed to be like, that's a huge lift for a 13-year-old girl, and she's like, that was fun. Let's do it again next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a 10-year-old girl. She was like that. She was like, she pulled She pulled like 120 on a deadlift. I was like, that's insane. And she's like, can we do more? I'm like, yeah, we 100% can. And then that's all she wanted to do. She just, I just want to pick heavy stuff up off the floor. I'm like, okay. So
that's awesome.
When did you find yourself after all this, not necessarily realistically having time, but like, when did you find your, I guess we'll call it love for strongman? I was going to say niche, or because you're pretty good at strongman and, all the things that are considered events inside strongman. But when did you get into that, and how?
So that's a good story as well. So go back to, started working at that gym in 2018, like January 2nd, 2018. There was a fella there, Stouffer Harrison. So you may recognize that last name. Harrison Made Strength. We just pulled on this big hoist that.
Oh, yeah.
So Stouffer is Dave's brother. So okay. Stouffer worked out at the same gym as me. And then, he saw me lifting. We would talk like in the locker rooms and stuff. And he was like, man, you got to check out this video of my brother. And it was David doing Atlas stones. Oh. And I had never seen that before in my life. And I was like, that's amazing. I could never, ever do that. And then Stouffer would continually tell me, it was like, David, he's so strong. He's deadlifting this much. And I'm so proud of my brother. And I was like, that's amazing, man. That's like strongman is really cool, but I could never do that. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my first exposure to strongman. Had really never heard of it outside of like ESPN and World's Strongest Man stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
the thought of that being accessible for someone that weighs, a little guy like me, or at the time like 160 pounds, it just wasn't something that I thought was viable.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And then fast forward probably 3 years or 2 years to 2020. We open up our little section in our garage of what we're training people out of. And then we have a guy that I worked with at the gym come in, and he's getting ready for his first strongman competition, Alabama Strongest Man.
Oh.
All the gym that he was working out at had shut down for COVID. We did not. And he was like, I'm training for this competition, but I don't have equipment. Do you mind if I borrow something and I bring it here? And I was like, let me look on Facebook Marketplace and see if anybody's selling something. And sure enough, luck again, I guess. There was a guy that had competed in strongman for a long time, and then had kind of retired from the game, that was selling like everything he used. So we bought 3 Atlas stones. We bought that custom log that we have now that we lift on.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you where you got that heavy piece of equipment.
But he had it fabricated, some welder, wherever he lived at the time. We bought all this stuff, just like a ton of just strongman junk. And it was all for Will Buston. So David Harrison, number one. I have 3 people that's like, these people got me into strongman. David was one. I was like, I'll never be as strong as David. That's what I want to do. That's going to be amazing. And then getting to compete against him at nationals was like, as icing on the cake for everything. So it's funny how small the world is.
Oh,
so
100%.
Will was getting ready for Alabama Strongest Man. We bought all this equipment because we're like, well, that's a niche that no one is really, really committing to here in our area. It was like, we could have strongman people work out at our gym when we find a place to. So bought that, and still didn't get involved in 2020. It wasn't until probably 2021 we were moved into our new place. We had, a keg and a log and an axle. We bought it all just for Will, just for Will to start training, hoping that more people would get in. And, we're all competitive. We're, young men in a gym at this point, a little older now than I was then. Will starts chirping about how this stuff is way tougher than Olympic weightlifting, and you couldn't do it and I would beat you. And at the time, he absolutely would. And I ended up doing Mississippi Strongest Man in 2021 just to compete against Will. And he ended up competing in the open class. I competed in the novice because I didn't know there was a difference. So did my competition in 2021. The first event was a yoke run for time. And I pick it up and I'm walking, and I didn't realize it's a race. I thought we were just seeing who could finish it. It was like 450 pounds, and they're yelling at me, run. And I realized right then, like, oh, like there's more to this sport than I thought. So anyway, that competition, kind of enjoyed it. Still wasn't like, I'm going right back to Olympic weightlifting when I'm done. And then a fellow by the name of Ben Claridad, who used to be an old Cal strength lifter, Olympic weightlifter, 40 strength, if you're familiar. Somebody that I, kind of grew up in weightlifting watching on YouTube, had started dabbling in strongman and was competing in strongman now. And I'm like, man, like this is a guy that looks incredibly impressive, doing, beautiful split jerks with an axle and with a log and all this stuff. And I was like, I think I could probably do that. And then, I started dabbling in like an axle clean and press. And I was like, that's it. I like strongman.
Yeah.
That's about all it took. I had the realization at that point that if you are a decent Olympic weightlifter, you can be very good overhead in strongman.
So
and
much carryover.
No kidding, man. And I realized along the way that if you're a decent Olympic weightlifter and you're good overhead in strongman, then you can be okay in a competition. But if you're good at like the triple extension stuff, then you can load well and you can throw well. You can shoulder well. And there was so much carryover from that. So everything like decent I've ever been able to do in strongman has definitely been because of that base in Olympic weightlifting. I never would have knew what it was if it wasn't for Stouffer telling me about David. I never would have, had access to equipment if we didn't buy it for Will. And I definitely wouldn't have transitioned from Olympic weightlifting into strongman and just like absolutely fall in love as it wasn't for Ben. So those three people got me into it, and then I just kind of plugged away since 2021. Got a little better here and there. Still trying to salvage a decent deadlift, but the other pieces have been good enough to keep me afloat at least.
Sounds like me. I've been trying to salvage a decent yoke since since 2021. 2021 was my first nationals. The yoke they had there cost me my back, but kind of like same like you, right? Freaking except a little different. Mine, I had been watching strongman. Same thing. Was unfamiliar that we had weight class athletes. I just thought it was like big dudes. And I remember I was working at the border one day. I was on shift, and I was just like, strongman for, I think it was like strongman for little guys, or like strongman comps in my area, something like that. Because I was like, oh, I want to go watch one. And then there was this comp. It was called Unstoppable. It was like a novice show under 200, and it was like 5 hours away from where we were. So I was like, wait, I like watching strongman. Let me look at these events. I looked at them. I was like, oh, these all look like easy weights. I've hit these overhead before and stuff like that. So I got approval from the leadership. I did it, and then I was like, I won my novice show, and I was like, okay, I think I'm pretty good at this sport at this time, right? Woo! My whole 21 career was just humbling, because my next competition after that, I competed against Mike Sidwell. Yeah, and before he became a master, and it was at a pro-am. So my second show ever was a pro-am after like coming out the field for a week, and Mike handed it to me because there was an Arnold invite on the line, and he wanted it, and well, he got it. So I came second to Mike. I was like, wow. I was like, this is what strong people are. And I think I zeroed the deadlift event too. And then my next open show, I competed against Nate out of North Carolina. I competed against Quinn, Greg Schillitz, and I was like, who are these people? I was like, who are these strong people? And it was super humbling. And then like for me, it was just like, obviously I love the sport, but I like anything competitive or anything that I can constantly improve on. And so from there, I was like, that's it. Like, I'm involved with this, and I'm in it. But yeah, fast forward nationals that year, nothing but houses, psychopaths. Like this year, basically. Like in my class, we had Quinn, we had my coach Cody, we had Andrew Haynes, we had Mike, we had Greg again, we had Nate again. Who else was there? It just animals, all of them. And
that's quite. You posted that picture on Instagram.
Yeah.
Of that. Yeah, that was. I mean, just studs across the board at that competition. Names that we know now. You know, from years before.
Dude, and it was wild. Like I think that year, the axle was only a 255 axle, which like I can look at now and just be like, oh, okay, like I go throw that around. But like their max log was like a 275, which even now is super impressive in the 80 kilo range. But like, it's crazy. I haven't, dude, that yoke story was so funny. I had never moved over a 500-pound yoke in my entire life up to this point. We had a 610 yoke for 120 feet. I completed it, broke my back, and I was out for all of 2022. It was like, it took me a year and a half of like physical therapy to like come back. So that like
is that where all the back issues stem from now?
Yeah. So I broke it in 21, and believe it or not, I didn't know it was as bad as it was. It wasn't until I got back from nationals, I went back to do PT in the morning, and I usually don't fall out of runs. And I went to take my Joes on a run that day, and all of a sudden we get like a quarter mile in, and I swear to you, like at first I was just sore. I'm like, okay, I just did nationals, I'm sore, whatever. But it literally felt like someone had taken my spine and just and like twisted it. Like I was incapacitated. I fell out at a quarter mile, and I had to limp my way to the bathroom as well. And that was an awful experience. But I found out, well, originally they just gave me physical therapy, and I was like, all right, whatever. So I did physical therapy for 3 months, typical military medicine. I was doing a front squat, and my coach at the time, he had me doing pause front squats. I was in the middle of a pause. I felt my whole lower half shift off, and I was like, uh-oh, and I was out again. So we did a year of aggressive physical therapy, but what had happened was I had essentially herniated my L5S1 so bad that my vertebrae had collapsed on themselves. And so basically now what I live with for it now is I have to sleep on a bed that's like just above a hardwood floor. So my bed's really stiff. The one day we went out to the field and I found a door to sleep on. Amazing, best night's sleep of my life. No back pain. I can't lay down for more than 7 hours, or I'll wake up just like absolutely inflamed, or not inflamed. My erectors will guard up and I'll seize up and I won't be able to walk. And there was one more other thing, but actually, I re-injured my back on a sandbag pick in 23. It took me out. I worked with Nate, and this is where I remember I talked to you about the ACL stuff with the cortical inhibition and everything like that.
Right.
Yeah, I worked with Nate for like a solid month. Like he gave, I was like, I don't care what it costs, just like help me with this. And he got me. Essentially, we just did some like low back flexion tolerance, and we identified some issues that my back has just because of my mechanics and the way I'm shaped. But we did a desensitization into my low back. And now, ever since then, it was not that long ago. It was maybe like a year and a half ago that we did this block. I have a little bit of back soreness and stuff like that, but literally I don't seize up anymore. My back doesn't guard. Like, it's been crazy. So that's why like I'm a huge desensitization guy, and I took a dive in it myself because I'm like, I need to learn more because I'm a huge med nerd. And I was like, oh, so my back's fine. My brain was just being stupid, and it was making everything hurt to stop doing this. So I just had to put it in more positions of it not being comfortable for it to be comfortable.
Isn't it funny how that's always the answer? Mm-hmm. Like with everything, and it's like stress. Just stress is the solution.
Mm-hmm. Literally, I learned because I started doing some more reading, and the pain compensation cycle, right? So it's a special wheel, and you can fall into the wheel at any time, realistically. But for quick layman's terms, if someone gets hurt, or if someone, let's just say someone's doing a squat and they're like, oh, my knee hurts when I squat. What is their natural reaction? They're going to be like, okay, I'm not going to squat. Or they're going to shift their squat to a position that doesn't hurt anymore. So now you create an imbalance. Through that imbalance, you create a postural fault. And now through your posture, you run into like nerve issues, or you run into more injuries, and it just happens. It just, this wheel, and you gotta stop the wheel. So that's why it's like, if your knee hurts when you squat, you need to do more squats, but you need to do it differently, right? Like you need to attack it in a manner. So like for my back, he's like, okay, your back hurts when you bend over, so we're gonna bend over a lot, and then we're gonna load it, and that plus just confidence with over time, like picking bags, slowly taking my hard belt off, slowly taking my soft belt off, and being like, oh wow, I'm okay. And then beltless blocks, like too many beltless blocks. I feel fat now because my core has grown so much, but like now I'm confident on my deadlifts, and like as soon as like I knew I wasn't going to blow my back out picking something off the floor, like that's when everything just skyrocketed. Just you, I was like, nice, we're back. Kinda.
Yeah.
But what have you been doing? Because your deadlift has been going through the roof.
I've just been deadlifting. And so that's the answer is not super complicated. I've been deadlifting as consistently as possible. Man, I appreciate you pointing that out, by the way. I think I mentioned earlier, that's been my Achilles forever. You talked about zeroing a deadlift in like your first open show in 2021. I think it took me 2 years to not zero a deadlift in an open show. So I think, yeah, man, my first deadlift I didn't zero was a max deadlift in a competition. So every deadlift for reps, Up until like 2023, I flubbed. I couldn't pull it. I wasn't strong enough. Um, and I had this plan where like I'm just going to deadlift to some kind of a maximum as frequently as possible and see what happens. And I ran through that in like 2023 and put like 75 pounds on my deadlift in a year. And then I started doing the same thing this year, and I've put at this point, I think exactly 75 pounds on my deadlift again, from like 525 about a year ago to 600.
You got to stop that. Don't let that secret get out.
If I can keep it up, we will. What's funny about that is I mentioned like the West Side stuff, and everybody's familiar with West Side at this point, like max effort, dynamic effort, repetition effort. I was listening to Dave Tate on a podcast one time, and he was talking about like going through, all the training at West Side, and he said something one day that really stuck with me. And he was saying that everybody knows that max effort is the only thing that really gets you stronger. We just can't do that every day, or we're going to break. And I'm like, stop. What if we can do that every day? And that wasn't a good idea. So that turned into, what if we can figure out a way to get as close to that as possible just about every day? So what I did for that deadlift starting in 2023 was like, I have kind of order of operations may not be the right way to put it, but it was like, here's my priority list. It was like, what is my deadlift? Can I beat that today? If the answer is no, what's my best set of 2? Can I beat that today? If the answer is no, I go to a set of 3. If the answer is no there, I go to a set of 5. If the answer is no for any of those, I'm pulling like some kind of like a set of 10 for reps or a couple of sets of 10 for reps, or I'm finding some kind of like technique builder that'll help me improve the technique on my deadlift. I do a snatch grip deadlift, or I do like a deadlift with a pause or something like that. And I would limit like overall volume in a session. And basically I was just spreading the volume throughout the week. But what I found was that would let me get into higher percentages more frequently. And man, my deadlift blew up. And I've kind of been doing the same thing. And now I'm trying it out in a suit, and like the deadlift is blowing up again. But taking that one thing of like, everybody knows that max effort is what makes, your lifts improve. And like, well, what if we can do that more frequently? What if there's a better way to structure training to do that? And that's kind of where I've been. That's where the deadlift progress has come from. Certainly with that though, like you got to pull like training load from something else. Like I couldn't be hammering sandbags 3 days a week too, while I'm, deadlifting close to maximum every other day as well. So it's a push and a pull kind of playing with the training economy. But as of right now, the glaring weakness is the deadlift. So that's where I'm throwing most of my attention.
Hey, min-maxing, as I like to call it, doubling. I mean, because you're technically in like an off-season / a prep, right? Well, not really an off-season. Like you should be starting prep here soon. But what's it called? You're almost about to hit like a double prep, aren't you? Because you got March, and then when's Mississippi's?
Mississippi's is in December. I'll train through that one. There's a max log, there's a max deadlift, there's a grandfather clock hold, and
that sounds really fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at the grip stuff. There's like a sandbag medley and then a sandbag load ladder. Like that's, if you train strongman consistently, you can do well enough at all of those. And it's a local level competition. I'm not going to cut for it. Hopefully we get some good competitors there. So I'm training for it, but as soon as events are announced for the Arnold, I'll shift focus.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like you in terms of like, in terms of the effort. I'd say obviously like I follow Cody's program, so I'm kind of restricted, which is like a good thing, because if I was not restricted and I was this is why I have a coach, because I have to keep myself accountable. Because it's just me doing it, like I'm gonna hammer myself into the ground. And but like when he lets the chains go every now and then, but also in terms of my workout rather, I really like to send it where I can. Just like you said, right? Like we're not going to get stronger. And I actually just yelled at a bunch of people on my Instagram story about this with like intensity, right? Like you're not going to get stronger without intensity. So like Dave Tate's like 100% with that. And like, I always say like, if you're if you're hammering your compound lifts, that's great, right? But like if you're saving yourself when it comes down to like the boring accessory work and you're not providing that same intensity into like your accessory work, like you're never going to get stronger because you're not doing the things to build the lift. And like you, right? I get a little bit more analytical because I'm like I call myself a form coach. So I'm not science based by any means, but like I have a good understanding of body mechanics, and with the Olympic lifting background and strongman, it kind of carries over. So I watch my videos very intently. I'm the guy with a tripod, but not for like influencer stupid reasons. I'm like, okay, let me look at this. Yeah. Okay, there it is. I'm like, all right, right there. Like I am lacking glute strength on this. Like right now, my Olympic lifts, I just had power cleans the other day. Dude, you would have thought I never touched the barbell. It's awful. I had like 6 sets. By the end of it, I was like, all right, whatever. Like I could find what I'm doing wrong, but now I have to like find the things to implement to like turn things on to make it work again, because we did too much deadlifting. But freaking that's exciting though. Have you been doing the same thing to your log? Because your log just shot up too, did it not?
Absolutely, it is, and that's yeah. The log's finally moving, which is thank the good Lord about that. But it's basically the same thing, and it's if it's typically like, what's my best set of 3? Can I beat that? What's my best set of 2? Can I beat that? You know, do I feel good enough to hit that single? So it's a bit intuitive day to day. Sometimes I plan for it, and if I'm working up and I'm like, this isn't going to happen, I'll adjust the plan, and we'll go back and do some volume work, or we'll do push presses, because that's a really good builder for my log. And it's just like you were saying too. It's constant assessment. It's like, where is this lift right now? Why is it there? Why is it not somewhere else? Like, what is the weak link? Let's attack that. Be that, am I not strong enough in that big upright extended position for the rack with the log? Am I missing some leg drive? Am I kind of messing up my balance? Am I pushing myself back? Little things like that. So I'm the guy in the gym with the tripod too. And it's for the same reason. I'll hit a lift and I'll go and I'll sit and I'll watch and be like, okay, this is how this set went. I really need to focus on this one thing for the next set to try to get something better. But
you build yourself that little cue. You're like, all right, like for me, I'm like, squeeze your butt. Most of the time that's what it is. I'm just not squeezing my glutes together. I'm like, just do it. But
it's a pretty good cue for just about every lift, to be honest.
Oh, 100%. Most of the time, I cannot stress enough how many. I probably corrected 6 people this week on just, I was like, you want to know why your lift sucks? Like, because you're not squeezing your butt cheeks together. And they're like, what? I'm like, just like focus on that. I was like, for example, one of my guys, 2 of my dudes hit a deadlift PR this week. And I was like, as soon as that bar goes over your knees, just squeeze your butt together as hard as you can. And they're like, all right. I was like, do it slow first. And they're like, they hit it, and they're like, that felt effortless. I'm like, it's crazy what happens when you use the muscles you're supposed to, ain't it? But with you, with prep, right? Do you have like a time frame where you can almost get like too dialed and things start heading downhill?
I've been thinking a lot about that lately. In the past, that would be something that, to be honest, probably my ego wouldn't let me admit. But I think that is the case. I always kind of poke at people that are like, I'm in my peaking phase, and I peak early and this and that. Because I think if you're training and you're building the system and you're becoming more neurologically efficient, like you're always getting better. The goal is to always get better. Sometimes fatigue is going to hinder performance on one day or 1 week. Like I'm still young enough that I can be like totally beat down, and I can probably be good in 3 days.
Yeah,
unless I like injure myself. So I that's something that I've always kind of thought about. And then lately I've caught myself with the more technical movements where it's like, I'll do exercises that build that technique well. And then I pull them out and the movement goes really well for 2 weeks. And then I start to get sloppy again.
Yeah. Okay.
So it'll be like a physiological, like I'm peaked or not peaked. But I think the technique components, that would be something that, if I'm prepping for a competition, I should probably, dive a little deeper into when I pull like certain supplementary or accessory exercises out. For example, like a push press for a log is like my number one go-to for building that push jerk. Just because you've got to drive it correctly, your balance has got to be right. So if I pull that out too early, my jerk's probably going to go to crap because I can get away with my balance being worse. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, 100%. No, 100%. Because like for me, mine is same thing, right? And I think this has to be with us being super analytical when we watch our stuff and like trying to change it. I have a 6-week sweet spot. So like, for example, let's just say if we're prepping for, well, actually, I'll just say last January, I was trying to take the deadlift record. And we hammered deadlifts. Hammered. Fine, I love deadlifting. But what I noticed with myself, and I voiced this to him, I was like, I have like a 6-week sweet spot when it comes to like these like movements. And I realized it was everything. Like if it was a deadlift or a log or an axle or something like that. At the end of that 6 weeks, like everything's firing. I'm ready. I'm locked in. It's looked never better, no matter the event. As soon as we get past 6 weeks, that's when I start over analyzing my stuff. And like, when we were talking about log cleans and stuff like that, I'd go to hit my clean. I'm like, oh, this isn't sitting right. Like, oh, this is like half an inch off. Or I'm watching my video. I'm like, see, there wasn't enough power inside that clean and blah, blah, blah. And it just downfalls.
Do you think that's more of a mental thing for you, or is that something physiological or I guess neurological?
I would definitely say it's a more mental thing. Cause, nothing super neurological because I mean, just based off like the way everything goes, we're usually set up when we're going to hit these big logs to have the brain firing in the best capacity that it can. So the strength is there. What it is my own mental state of being a crazy person and being like super hyper analytic and being like, oh, this is why this didn't work. Okay, we need to do blah, 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 blah. Whereas like sometimes I need to take a step back and remind myself, because I'm a very do or die mentality type of person, which I've been fixing, and just trying to like have fun with it and be like, you know what, this feels good. Because I would be like, oh, I need to fix this or it's all crap. Like, and it was not good. And after like that 6-week mark, like I could go into the end of 6 weeks and be like, yeah, I have this lift. We're straight. Cool. After 6 weeks, it's like, it's just a giant mental fest and it's awful. And I think I really fixed that mindset with prepping for this nationals because I was in Poland. I didn't have any implements. And I was just like, you know what? Whatever. I was like, I'm just going to get strong. I'm going to learn I'm going to knock the rust off of the movements that I can so that I have somewhat my body prepped for that movement. And then I'm just going to go from there. Oh, yeah. Shout out to you, by the way. My hands are finally healed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hunter, I don't know if I shredded my hand on that frame at nationals, and I've finally like got not fresh baby skin on where I threw that callus off.
That's awesome. But I'm pumped that you said neurological because I've been posing this, not necessarily a theory. Obviously, everybody knows. Well, not everybody, but some people should know. If you don't, listen up. Strength is directly proportional. It's all neural signals, right? Your brain shoots a signal to your muscles, tells how many muscle fibers to contract and how hard to contract. So, dumb it down. Strong brain equals strong muscles. Now, obviously, there's the ways to train that and stuff like that. So I've been diving into, I do a lot of work with cerebral well-being right now for like my cognitive or like my mental therapy and just like some mindset things. And believe it or not, the whole grounding thing and visualization is like does wonders versus just getting pissed off before a lift. Let me tell you.
I agree with that. Yeah. I'm never one to like get super amped up and like rip smelling salts and this and that. That's not exactly my style. Same thing. And I think it comes back from like my experience with Olympic weightlifting. Again, everything decent I've ever done in strongman, I think I can accredit to Olympic weightlifting there. But if you get yourself like way too amped up and you try to do a movement like a snatch, whereas the margin for error is so small, good luck. You're probably you're gonna have a tough time. You've got to be able to not think your way through the lift, but you have to be like mentally prepared enough to execute with violence and aggression, but accuracy. And some of the more like technique oriented strongman events, it's got to be the same thing. It's got to be the same thing. The visualization is huge there. I would love to say like I love positive self talk and stuff like that. That's not my style.
Yeah.
I wish it was.
Yeah. I'm a big negative self talk guy too, but
man, when it stops working, I'll stop doing it. But being able to like visualize, like, okay, this is what I have to do. Go.
Yeah.
That's good. And I learned that from Olympic weightlifting, and I think maybe that's what you're describing there.
I mean, we kind of get that instilled in us in the military, in the mindset too, right? Like,
right.
You take that old, an irrational leader makes irrational decisions. So like with like the getting super emotional and stuff like that, because you're gonna go out and you're gonna make a bad decision. Or like, for example, if we do this in let's say a clean and press, right, with an axle clean and press. You go out there, let's say it's a max, it's something super heavy, and you're just like all wiling out and pissed off, you're probably not going to be as technical. So that's like, I agree with you so much. Like you gotta know how to turn it up, but like controlled aggression. There it is.
Yes. Yeah. It's violence and it's aggression and it's maximal outputs, but it's at the right time and it's in the right direction. If you miss those last two pieces, yeah, good luck with it. I think it's even more so with lightweights with 80 kilo. I think the smaller you get in terms of the athlete, the more that your timing, your accuracy really plays a point, really plays a part. Certainly like it's important if you're a super heavyweight as well, but like you see way more strict presses and push presses and stuff like that out of the super heavyweights than you do, out of the lightweights where, look at the overhead event from nationals this past year. Everybody at the top there, except for, Aaron Talavera was a split jerk. But Aaron's just a freak. He can push press that.
Yeah, he's a monster.
So I think it takes, that like super accurate aggression. It's a combination of it, more so for the smaller bodies that are in the lower weight classes of the sport.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. Like, definitely, the lower you go. Actually, I'd say more so just like the 80 and 90s. Like, you got some athletic 105s, but they start to get in that realm of like big boy movements.
Big enough bodies, they can get away with it. They can get away with it.
Like,
I think something else you see with the lighter weight classes too is, an 80 kilo body. Like, I think there's more of a cap on how strong somebody at that level with that body shape and size, whatever, can get. So like the technical prowess, your tactical approaches to events, I feel like that matters a little more for the lighter weight classes than it may for the heavier weight classes. Just because, if I can weigh whatever I want to weigh, I'm probably going to get heavier. I'm probably going to get stronger as long as it's not sacrificing my moving events. So you see technicians in the lighter weight classes for sure.
Well, I mean, look at you. You can throw a 50-pound bag over 50 feet or 15 feet.
Whoa.
That's like unheard of in the 80 class. I just want you to know that. That's like ridiculous.
Man, I'm close with that 55. I really want to hit it. Coming from Olympic weightlifting to strongman, I keep going back to that. But like, I just assumed that I would be so good at throwing, and man, I was not. And the first time I had a competition that had a throw, we bought our first sandbags so we could start throwing, and I expected to be much better, and I wasn't. And I was like, well, I need to get better at this. So we spent an hour, like 4 days a week. I would just go out there and throw, and I just hammer away. And it's something that stays in the programming consistently because I don't think it takes anything away from you. And if I could pick up
pride,
the pride there, and it takes time. But other than that, if I could pick up a few events like a throw or like grip stuff where like I could just about guarantee points, eventually I can be, pretty competitive, I think.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you already are competitive. So what are you talking about?
Well, I'm hoping to finish a few places away from the bottom with the Arnold next March. That's my goal.
Hey, that's a good goal, right? Like, I don't
I think
want.
so
I
too.
want to go out there. I don't want to zero anything. Don't want to finish last. If that happened, I had a good day. But no,
Bingo.
throwing bags like your deadlift, throwing bags for me, my Achilles heel. I am so trash. I've never thrown a 40-pound bag over 15 feet.
No kidding.
Can't do it, and it's crazy because I have a 73-inch wingspan, so I'm like halfway up the implement by the time
Yeah.
it's done. But
You
nah,
got the tools. You can make it happen.
yeah, I just gotta get committed to it. Honestly, most of the time, like people are like, "Hey, you want to go throw sandbags?" I'm like, "Nah." But that's why I was like, "Yeah, it hurts my pride." But what's it called? We'll say last topic here, and then what's it called? I'll let you go because I know it's the weekend, and I know you probably want to go hang out with your family. So we talked about my injury and like obviously the nightmare of a year and a half that was for me. Yours was more fairly recent, and you came back super competitive in a shorter amount of time than I did, which obviously you had the right tools and a better mindset about it. So, what happened? What'd you do? What'd you learn?
Oh, that's a good question. What did I learn, especially that part there? So I tore my ACL September the 2nd, 2024. Was shouldering a 300-pound sandbag, and probably should not have been that day. Had like, I was looking back at all my training leading up. Like there were signs that my knees weren't doing good. I was like limping doing farmer's carries. So in hindsight, if I were a less stubborn person, I probably would have shut that down. And I shouldn't have been doing that day. Accidents happen, of course, though. I mean, like injuries, you can never know when something freaky like that is going to happen. But sandbag up on the chest, I'm giving like one more little pop, and I hit the bottom of that dip to extend to get the bag up, and there's a snap, this loud pop. And the first thing I said was a swear word, and the second thing I said was, I think I just tore my ACL. And then for some reason, the next thing I said, because I had two guys in the gym training with me, I was like, Trey, I need you to take my pants off. I don't know why that made sense to me at the time, but I was like, Trey, get these clothes off of me.
Yeah,
so
I got to look at it. Take these off me.
He helped me take off my grip shirt and the tights I was wearing because I was deadlifting before. I'm laying there and I'm like, I think I'm okay. And I stood up and I'm like, oh, I'm not okay. And whatever, helped me get to the truck, called my wife. I was like, hey, this is what I think happened. And sure enough, a couple days later, I finally got an appointment with a doctor to see, and he was like, well, x-rays look good. You've got so much swelling that it's hard to tell if there's a tear or anything like that. We'll order an MRI. I had that appointment probably a week later, and I was about convinced that I was okay. So I was like, I hurt my knee, but I've hurt my knee before. It'll be fine. I spent a couple of days like in a mobilizing knee brace just to lock things in so I didn't jack things up. And after 3 days, like I was just taking it off when I was in the gym because it was a pain in the butt to swing around to get on the bench press and to like sit on my box and do my presses and stuff. And then, I got the MRI probably a week and a half or 2 weeks later. And before I got the results of the MRI, I was convinced that, hey, I was probably going to be fine. Actually had torn the ACL. So at the time, it came back, isolated ACL tear, nothing else wrong with the knee, which if you know anything about Olympic weightlifting, if you have undamaged knees after, years of weightlifting and strongman.
I was going to say, it's very surprising.
No kidding. I think maybe just like genetically predisposition, just having good joints. Maybe I've never had a joint issue outside of that tear. Tore the ACL, saw the MRI, got the results back and all, and I actually reached out to Nate, and I was like, hey man, what do I need to do pre-surgery to make sure that I can come back as fast as possible, and what is the time frame usually? He's like, well, after an ACL tear, you're usually looking at a year. I was like, okay, so what can I do right now to make sure that I can, come back strong and come back fast? He was like, keep as much size on that leg as possible, get your quad strong, get your hamstring strong, and then keep an eye on how big it is, avoid atrophy. Like, okay, I can do that. Done. If I really hammer that in and I keep my leg big, what is that going to do for my recovery time? And he was like, you're still looking at a year.
Oh.
So I'm like, So why should I do that?
Mm.
And then that kind of led me down this rabbit hole, where, I've reached out to some other people that I knew that had torn ACLs, and I didn't realize, one fellow that I'd spoken with didn't have surgery and ended up tearing his ACL, and then, getting a pro card as a super heavyweight within the same year without surgery as well.
That's sick.
Chris, what's his name? Matos?
Oh yeah,
He's
Chris
taking pictures. Awesome dude, but talked back and forth with him through his rehab process and stuff. And I decided then, I was like, I think I'm going to try to rehab this without surgery. Because at this point, I was squatting like an empty bar and stuff, probably 3 weeks later, and, going through stuff, trying to clean an axle and press it because I'm stubborn.
Of course, then, naturally.
Yeah, for sure. Picked an orthopedic surgeon that I knew doesn't do ACLs to have my appointment. So kind of played the game a little bit. And I got there and he was like, "You have an ACL tear. I'm not your guy for that." I'm like, "Perfect. You'll actually entertain a conversation with me. This is what I want to do. What's your opinion? What do you think?" And he's like, "Let me bring in the PT, looking at you, you got muscle tone. This may be okay." And he was like, "If you want to try it, go ahead. It may be the kind of thing where you're better off without the surgery." And ended up going down that path. And like step one was, get my leg back to the same size it was pre-injury.
Yep.
So a lot of like just hypertrophy work, squats, single leg stuff. Ended up getting a Don Joy knee brace. If you ever see like the big fancy knee braces like on Monday Night Football, and it's the same brand that like NFL players wear. So I was able to train in that. That stabilized everything in the knee. It basically act as like an external ACL for me. Where, if I didn't have it tight, I would feel that slip where like my upper leg and my lower leg would kind of separate. I'd feel my bones touch. I'd want to throw up. Grossest feeling ever in the world. Eventually that started to go away and I started to, at least hate it less. But tore it in September, was deadlifting again, regularly close to, what I was pulling before, probably 4 weeks later. Competed in Mississippi Strongest Man that December. So I guess like 3 months and a week after the tear. Ended up, winning that competition. Did the whole thing in the knee brace. And just it lit an absolute freaking fire in me. The injury did. Just thinking, if I can come back from this and still be competitive, then what can I extrapolate that to, right? So I don't even know how to describe it really. I felt as down as I could ever be for about 72 hours after the tear. And I was like, this sucks. This is a whole year. I'm going to be out of this. All I wanted to do next year was like, I wanted a shot at, qualifying for America's Strongest Man, because I thought it was going to be later on in the year. And like, that was like the big goal. That's all I wanted out of 2025. And, at that point I was like, well, that's done. And it ended up being done anyway. I wasn't viable enough to compete in some events there with the ACL tear. Couldn't carry farmer's handles or a frame or do a yoke, until probably May.
Fairly recent. Yeah, I was going to say it's fairly recent.
What I didn't know that I learned about an ACL is, or any ligament in your knee, is your brain uses all of those in unison, kind of as a sensor to understand where you are in space and test load and stuff. Well, when you lose a sensor, you lose your ability to know where your leg is in space. So I kind of relearned how to walk without it, and that's an exaggerated version of that. That wasn't so bad. Took me months to try to run again. I started playing tennis again with my knee brace on after a couple of months. But the first time I tried carrying farmers, trying to get ready for like the natural strongman thing we had in Mississippi in January, I felt like I didn't have control of my legs. And I ended up, hurting myself with that over and over again, and was like, I ended up pulling out of that competition and like reset on the, training for the moving events. And then, just built back basically from the ground up with those events.
So you basically had to relearn all your implements with a missing sensor.
Anything moving. So stationary stuff, like I could still press, that's fine. Deadlift, I could still do that, that's fine. I could still squat. After the tear and I started coming back, and I was like, I want to hit a squat PR, within 6 months. And I had squatted 500 before. I squatted 505 in, I think, January or February after the tear.
Oh my
So,
goodness. That's
yeah.
insane. Was that your confidence builder right there? You're like, yeah, maybe I don't need this thing. I'm pretty strong.
Dude, that was about the check in the box.
Yep.
I was like, okay, I'm good. And then, as soon as I squatted that, and I like did not wear my knee brace in training ever again. Got ready for Louisiana Strongest Man, and I was like, I'm not even going to ask if I can wear it in the competition. I'm putting this thing away. I'll wear it when I play tennis. That's it. And my first time cleaning and pressing a log, I was absolutely terrified of doing that without the knee brace and on the knee. But things went well. Never had another issue with it. It stayed in my head for a long time. Getting ready for that frame for nationals. 5'10" isn't super heavy for some people. I had never carried a frame that heavy before.
Oh,
so trying to get
like.
Brother, there were, and I've gone through and I finally like made my peace and deleted the videos, but there were videos of me because I record a lot of my training, like standing in the frame, trying to grab the handles for like 7-8 minutes.
Oh gosh, I've been there. I know exactly what you're going through. So yeah,
I couldn't make myself grab the handles and go because I'm like, this is going to be the one, and the ACL is not going to protect me, and I'm going to tear something else. And like, I'm not too prideful to say this, but like, I was times where I was in the gym by myself trying to do this, and I was like, there's tears. I'm like a psychopath, probably crying,
just like
trying to.
This man's really psyched up over here.
Freaking 450 frame, just sitting there, like tears welling up in my eyes. I've been standing in there for 4.5 minutes, like just grab it, just grab it, just grab it. And it turned into like I would pick up and I'd walk and be like, your knee's fine, you're okay, you're okay, just step, just step, just step. And as the competition got closer, and I guess I got more reps under me, and it was like, I really think I'm okay. I've convinced myself that I think I'm going to be all right.
Then that stubbornness kicks in, and you're like, you know what? I've done this like so many times now. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I've been there because with the sandbags, right? Like that's what blew my back out the second time, and same thing, pretty much, but not minutes worth, but like a good while. I would before I'd go and touch any sandbag, like fully belted everything. I'm like, same thing. This is gonna be the one. This is the one I'm gonna pick, and it's gonna blow me apart, and I'm not gonna be able to walk again for 4 days. And then I'd be like, but we have to try. And then I'd pick it up, and after just countless repetitions, that confidence came back. So it's crazy. It's crazy what happens because your brain really tries to stop you from doing things, which is phenomenal. It's awesome, but it's frustrating.
Yeah, we go back to that, like the cortical inhibition that you talked about, where there's inhibition in other ways as well. For me, it was just this real aversion to something that I thought was going to set me right back to where I was. In September 3rd, the day after the injury, and that was a big mental hurdle. The same as like as you were saying, when you hurt your back, and like, if I pick up this sandbag, is that going to be the one? So, but repetition, just understanding that if I didn't do this, then I was going to go and I was going to embarrass myself at nationals, and just putting the stacking the reps on top of each other and building that confidence back.
It's awesome. But now you're healed, pretty much stronger than ever.
Yeah.
And in a good place, I'd say, statically and obviously still dynamically moving forward for your next couple comps.
Yeah, I hope so, man. If I can get a little better at moving and I can deadlift a little better, I think that I could be very competitive at a higher level. Not to toot my own horn too much, but like, you and I keep talking about like analyzing everything. I think I can press with just about anybody. I think I can throw with just about anybody. My deadlift's getting better. I am still thoroughly trash at like farmers and the yoke, but I'm getting better. So I mentioned like checking the box on certain events every now and then. If I can check the box on a yoke carry and be like, okay, that's viable enough that it's not damage control on points, we'll be doing pretty good.
Well, I'm a big form guy. Send me some videos. I'll let you know.
I will, as soon as I'm brave enough to start carrying farmers again.
Fair enough.
Man, my ankle is not in a position to let me. I don't even know if
I've
told
seen
you. At nationals, trying to carry that frame longer than I deserve to carry that frame. If I'm being honest, Ended up like right foot and then stepping over, sprained like everything on the right side of my ankle. And then trying to take that next step, sprained everything on the left
Ooh.
side of my ankle. And the posterior tibial tendon, I think that's what it's called, an avulsion. It pulled the tendon, pulled away from the bone. It's calcified over now. So
Ooh.
it's, reattached in a way. But I've just been dealing with that. I haven't been able to carry anything since the competition, but it's coming. As soon as I can carry, I'll send you some videos. You can rip me apart.
Hell yeah. I'm down for that. What's it called though? So, well, we hope that that ankle gets better. Do some.
It's coming.
What's it called? So I'm gonna let you get out of here. I appreciate it, but before you leave, for the people, obviously we talked about a lot. For anyone that's like new, looking to start training, like trying to get stronger, or shoot, even start a business or anything like that. If you could sum all that up into like a piece of advice, what would you tell people?
Um, stay persistent and keep your goal in the forefront. So there's a million distractions everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be something there that you can convince yourself may be a better option. Most good things or most things that are worth pursuing take time. So be persistent with what you choose to pursue,
Mm-hmm.
and don't get distracted by whatever the next shiny thing is, whether that's in your professional life or in your training, or whatever else. Be persistent, don't get distracted, and stay true to your goals.
Throw the blinders on.
Yeah, that's it, man. Head down and eyes up.
Yep. Well, hey, man, again, I appreciate you being on. So, everyone, that was episode 4 with Justin. Again, my name's John Corky, head of the SuckLessStation, because as long as you are trying to suck less every single day, you will succeed, or at the very least, improve on yourself and the goals that you're trying to accomplish. And like Justin said, throw them blinders up, stay persistent. Thank you for coming out.
Thanks, Sean. Pleasure to be with you, man. Good to chat.
I appreciate it, man.